Morning, Lethbridge. Carrie Flatley here at Remax Real Estate Lethbridge for this week's Friday Fire, soon to be real estated podcast. And we will still do the Friday Fire episodes as well. They'll just be a little bit different format and schedule. So anyway, today I want to give you a little update on a few things going on with the team and also book review. Look at this bad boy, Tribe of Mentors by Tim Ferriss. I got to talk about this book. So, we just hired a third person at Carrie Flatland Associates, so I'm super excited. And I want to talk a little bit about that process. So, because I think it ties into Tribe of Mentors, which talks about success habits of lots of different successful people around the world. Here's a lesson. When you're adding someone to your team or you're partnering with someone in business, you always hire for values. Okay, so the resume is super important. The person we hired had an outstanding resume, but the reason I chose her over everyone else, and I had, probably 100 applications, I chose her for a couple of reasons. I chose her for her values, the things that she valued at work, and for her attitude in the interview. Very easy to talk to, very personable, laughed at some of my stupid jokes. So anyway, values. I can train you for skills. I can't train you for values. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind when you're working with people in business. Okay, Tribe of Mentors. This book is amazing. I was really scared of this book because in my mastermind group, we had to read it within a certain amount of time. I still have a little bit to go. But it's actually a pretty quick and easy read. So if you have a hard time reading like one really long book, this is like 100 little books all in one, because he interviews 100 and some people and he asks them all the same questions. So there's like themes throughout the book, and each interview is only a few pages long. So it's really awesome because you could like jump into the middle of the book and just like read one or two interviews and get something really incredible out of it. So like I've started, marking off like sections of the books. I want to like go back to those interviews and read them again. And what's also cool is the variety of people. So there's celebrities, there's sports celebrities, there's business owners, doctors, spiritual leaders, writers, just an amazing depth and breadth of human beings in this book. So, it doesn't even matter what you do for a living or, what your industry is that you work in or what your personal interests are. If you have any interest in personal development, you got to get your hands on this book. I read a couple interviews every night and all of a sudden I'm just about at the end of the book. So now I'm like looking forward to reading this every day because it's like my daily dose of inspiration. There were two themes in the book that I wanted to just highlight in case you're wanting a sense of what they talk about in the book. The first one was failure, and Tim Ferriss asked almost all of the interviewees about failure. So a time that a failure in their life, helped them, or what was their favorite failure. And it was just fascinating because it didn't matter who he asked. Everyone had a really interesting answer to that. And I don't think hardly anyone in the book said, oh no, I've never had a big failure. Like everyone had epic failures along the way in their life. And what was so inspiring is that almost all of them used that failure to help them springboard to something better. It was the way they viewed it that made the difference. They never let that failure keep them down. They might feel upset for a while, but they use that failure in some way to pivot or to learn something new about themselves, or it opened a door to a different opportunity. So maybe they thought they were going in this direction, it failed. It enabled them to go in a different direction that turned out to be much, much better for them. So I thought the discussions around failure were wonderful, because if you're in business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a realtor, This is a very, very lonely business. There's a lot of failure and a lot of rejection. I don't care what anybody says out there about, how many homes they're selling and how successful they are. Like, yeah, that's awesome. I talk about those things too. But I'm telling you, behind closed doors, every successful entrepreneur experiences failure, and it can be soul crushing and it can be lonely. This book really helps with that, because you see that some of the most respected, successful people in the world have had crushing failure in their life. So very interesting. The other thing that resonated with me was the discussion around saying no to things. Because as you get more successful, as you are even just in the trenches of building a business, you start to get asked and demanded of more. People are asking for more things. People start to know who you are, and you're constantly being pulled at in different directions. And you have to really stay focused on where you're trying to go. So saying no to people becomes a skill unto itself, because you might be trying to preserve the relationship, but you simply can't say yes to everything. You can't. You can say yes to everything in the beginning, but as you have more and more on your plate, as you're trying to prioritize for your clients' needs and for the people on your team and for your family and your personal life, you have to start saying no. And that can be super hard. And it's also hard to know what to say no to. So they talk about that in most of these interviews, and how they've learned to draw lines in the sand, protect their private time. That came up over and over again, was protecting their private time and protecting their focus on whatever it was they were trying to achieve in their career. If they were asked to participate in something and it just didn't resonate, they would say no. And the other thing that quite a few of them talked about, and I thought it was a really great strategy, is if it was something they were being asked to do way out into the future, quite often they would say no. Because what happens to people, especially in modern times, is they say yes to everything, because they're like, okay, that's a month away, yeah, I'll do that. And then that day comes and they suddenly have 10 other things on their plate, and they wish they wouldn't have said yes. So a lot of people in Tribe of Mentors were very good at looking at invitations that were way out in the future and filtering it and saying, well, one guy said, if I had to do it tomorrow, would I want to do it? And that was how he decided to say yes or no. And if I don't want to do it like tomorrow or within the next few days, I'm not going to want to do it a month from now. And how many of us overcommit like that? So those were two themes, was dealing with failure and how they looked at failure, because we all fail, but the difference is how you react to it. And then saying no and protecting your focus for whatever your goals are with your career in life. So really, really great book. It's a big read. I think it's 600 and some pages. I'm a really slow reader, but I was able to get through this no problem, because you can just read 2 or 3 interviews a day. And I would actually recommend only reading 2 or 3 a day, because then you can really absorb what they said, and then you might want to go back and read it again. Tim Ferriss is brilliant. He just knows how to pull the very best out of people. So I would read this book, and then I would also subscribe to the Tim Ferriss Show podcast. Some amazing interviews on there. Amazing. So that's my Friday Fire. Hi, Mary. And I will see you next week. Please watch for the new Real Estated podcast. We're hoping to launch in June. So now I've said that out loud. We have to commit to it. And I will keep you posted on what's happening with that. Have a terrific weekend and enjoy the rain. Bye-bye.